First of all, if I could ask a question to David and Billy, just as you were going through this process of selecting your next manager, what made Mark the right choice for you?
Well, good. Hey, Matt, how you doing? Good to see you. Yeah, listen, I'll answer that question. I think it's important to, before we, formally introduce in this forum Mark as the manager. I wanted, first of all, I wanted to say a few nice things about our former manager, Bob Melvin. I mean, I know a lot has been said over the last month, but it'd be crazy if David and I didn't recognize an amazing 10 and a half years that we had with Bob. And normally in these circumstances, when you're hiring a new manager, it's because the previous one maybe failed, but as we all know, that certainly wasn't the case. And again, I want to, myself, and I speak for David as well, and just an amazing 10 and a half years, all-time winningest manager in club history. And I think what's pretty unique about Bob, and he's got a great opportunity there, and we're all going to be rooting for him, is that, very rarely does a guy enter the building and his popularity usually goes down as a result of this game and the challenges that the job and the position have. But with Bob, I mean, in 10 and a half years, I don't think there's a person who works in our building that wouldn't have great things to say about their experience with him. So again, I want to take this time to, we had an amazing run. We're very thankful for everything he gave. I know he'll probably be in as a visiting manager at some point, but I also know he's probably going to be there as a Hall of Fame inductee at some point too with the A's. So I wanted to make sure that I did say that, and also recognize some of the other people who were part of this process. And we were very efficient. Again, I'll give you a little background on the process. We were very efficient. We did a lot of homework before we actually set up the interviews. The times, I think, suggest that you want to be very careful about people traveling. And so we felt like with the 6 candidates, Mark being one of those, that we were very specific and did a lot of background before we actually put that interview list together. We had, and what I can say, and just all 5 of them had, we could have hired any of those, other than Mark. They were all outstanding. We knew Marcus Jensen and Darren were outstanding before they came in, and they didn't disappoint in the interview. But it also gave us a chance to meet 3 guys outside the organization who absolutely, you can write it down, are all going to manage. And Joey Espada, Matt Quatraro, and Will Venable. We couldn't have been more impressed with them, and it made the decision, very challenging. We felt very lucky that we had 6 guys that we felt could all of them could manage a major league team, and we would have been lucky to have any one of them. So I want to make sure I do want to just again talk a little bit about the process, and which gets us to Mark. And at the end of the day, this is Mark has fulfilled a lot of roles in baseball. First round draft choice, college player of the year. In fact, funny story, the way things work out, we thought we were going to get a chance to draft Mark, and I think it was 1996, Mark, I believe it was. He was the 9th pick, and we were really frustrated because we were hoping the Marlins would maybe change their mind. But from day one, Orrin Freeman, who was the scouting director at the time, Mark Kotsay was his guy, and we were left to sort of lament the fact that we weren't going to get a crack at a player that we thought was going to be a great major league player. So we kind of got the consolation prize and got a young man named Eric Chavez. So all turned out well. And then ultimately that sort of obsession with Mark as a player continued once he got to the major leagues. And we traded for Mark. And, he had an outstanding playing career here with the A's. Went on beyond that. And then, I would say this, Mark and David and I always had a pretty close relationship. And even as a player, it was something he'd always expressed, it was something that he wanted to do. And I'd always encouraged him, sort of take his time and very, very methodical, given his playing career and his growing family, take some time. But Mark didn't listen to the darn word I said. He immediately took a coaching job as soon as he started playing, which to me was really part of the passion that Mark has had to do what he's getting ready to embark on right now, which is be a major league manager. It was pretty clear that Mark, when he was playing and when he was done playing, he was on a mission to do everything he could to prepare himself to be a major league manager. That came through in the interim period between him playing, being a coach, and it also came through right when he set foot in the first 5 minutes of the interview. Mark didn't take anything for granted in the interview. He came as prepared as you possibly could be, despite the fact that he's known David and I for nearly 20 plus years. So that really impressed all of us. He could have sort of taken for granted that he knew us, and he didn't. He prepared as if he never knew us. And at the end of the day, it was a very difficult decision. But we felt like myself, David, and the rest of Dan Feinstein, who's on this call as well, Billy Owens, we all felt like Mark was the right guy to lead us forward. So anyways, I'm going to shut up for a little bit because I know David probably has a few words to say too, and I know you guys probably would like to talk to Mark instead of hearing from me. So David, I'll let you take over.
Yeah, thanks, Billy. Real quick. I mean, Billy said most of it, but this does feel like it's been a little over 18 years in the making. We traded for Mark in 2003, just before the 2004 season, and most people probably wouldn't guess that he only spent 4 years of his 17-year career with the A's, because he's always been identified so much with this organization. I know his girls were born in Oakland. They feel like that's home. I would say Mark is one of probably just a few guys that I have kept in touch with after leaving as a player, regardless of where else they went. It's Mark Kotsay, the Mark Ellises, the Scott Hattebergs. It's a small group of people who were here and impact the organization in a way that it's obvious you want to bring them back in some capacity. And that opportunity came for us when Mark was hired as the bench coach. And like Billy said, from the day he got here, it was clear what his passion was. I think we knew he was going to be a major league manager. We weren't sure if it would be here or somewhere else. But I think we're thrilled with the way this worked out, with the work that he has put into getting here. And I would say, without further ado, the 19th manager of the Oakland A's, Mark Kotsay.
Thanks. And if I could just also follow up, Mark, congratulations. You have held a variety of roles on coaching staffs and front office of the Padres. This will obviously be your first manager job. What maybe do you feel like has best prepared you to take on this role in terms of the different roles that you've held?
Yeah, man. At first, I want to start by saying how humbled I am, how honored I am to, as David said, the 19th manager. I don't know if isn't 31st manager, but ultimately, I feel blessed to sit here and be chosen to lead this organization going forward into our new era. As Billy mentioned, I'm very, very humbled to have had the opportunity to work on a staff with our former manager, Bob Melvin, and the respect that I have for Bob, the admiration I have for Bob. I think our relationship has grown over the last 6 years, and I feel confident that anytime I need to reach out to Bob and seek advice, I have that friendship there. So I'm very thankful for that. I also want to thank ownership. I want to thank Billy, David, and Dan for the opportunity to lead this organization going forward into our next era. And also have to thank my wife, who has stood by my side for 21 years and grinded through this journey. As Billy talked about, post-playing career, it's probably more of a difficult journey to continue being my rock and strength to continue my passion and my love for baseball. She's been that rock for our family. I want to thank my kids for their sacrifice post-playing career. As Billy mentioned, it would have been easy to walk away from the game and devote my time and attention to my kids. They understand our life. It's different, but 100% confident. They're very proud of the accomplishment, supportive, and I can't thank them enough. My parents I want to thank my parents for their support, their continued support throughout my life in my passion of baseball. And last but not least, I got to take the time to thank all of those that have been a part of my career in this journey. The growth, the strength, the knowledge has come from teammates, coaches, and friendships inside the game. And I thank them for that. So Matt, I hope I touched on some of the things that led me to this passion to want to manage, and the different variety of roles, as you spoke about, have definitely helped place me in a position, I feel, for success, even in this difficult job.
All right, let's go to Shayna Rubin.
Hey everyone! Congratulations, Mark. Just in conversations with players in the past, they said that you take a very non-cookie cutter approach with dealing with them. What would you say is your approach with working with players and your approach to taking on this job?
Thanks, Shayna. I really see myself as someone that comes across as transparent, someone who cares. I want the players to know that I care about them. First and foremost. And I think that comes across. I think the relationships that I've developed inside this organization, if you get an opportunity to talk to, whether it's baseball ops, whether it's front office, whether it's player development, I think the care factor is at the top of my list. And obviously I am open. I'm an open book. I may have some emotion that comes across at times, good and bad. But I think the players understand that I'm there for them.
And just a follow-up, you've interviewed for a couple other manager jobs elsewhere. How much did that prepare you for, or how much does being part of this organization prepare you for this job for so long to prepare you to be in this job now?
So speaking of the other processes that I've gone through, and as David mentioned, and I really, really appreciate your words, David, in terms of whether I was going to manage here in Oakland or whether I was going to manage somewhere else. Oakland has always been open to giving me an opportunity to go through those processes, which I truly believe I learned a great deal about myself, a great deal about what it takes to sit in this chair and to be responsible for leadership. Which I'm very thankful to the A's and thankful to the other organizations, the 5 that I had the opportunity to speak with, and yet I sit here as proud as can be and as excited to be to lead the A's into the future.
Let's go to Martin Gallegos.
Hey everyone, appreciate the time. Congrats, Mark. This question can kind of be for all you guys, but just in terms of the familiarity, obviously that Mark has just with players in the front office, how much of a, I guess, factor was that in all this, just having known Mark obviously for so long and just, kind of knowing the way, the organization kind of runs things. What is that kind of, how much of an advantage, I guess, is that for him?
I guess I'll start with it. Listen, it can be an advantage and a disadvantage all in the same thing. And again, I think to my point, when what impressed us with Mark, again, this is redundant, that he came into the interview as if he never knew us. And he came in so prepared that, I mean, it really impressed us. I don't think he took for granted that he knew us and he'd been here for a long time and he knew how he worked. And he also made it clear that, and we don't expect, listen, Bob was here 10.5 years. He had a way of doing things, and Mark is going to do some things like Bob and some things probably different from Bob. And to Mark's point about his personality is in some ways there's a lot of things that are alike, but there's also some that are different, and that's a good thing. I mean, I think we're looking. I think we'd like to use this as an opportunity for growth, and I think Mark represents that. And again, his familiarity with what we do, I don't think it hurt, but I don't necessarily think we went in there saying that there was a heavy favorite. I think we were completely open. And again, the other thing in some sense too, and you go, I haven't had to do these, and I'll be honest with you, I wasn't looking forward to this. I haven't had to do this. David and I haven't had to interview for a manager's position since I think after the 06 season. So it wasn't a process we were looking forward to. As it turned out, I really enjoyed it. And I enjoyed it because I got to meet some really great future managers that I ever knew. And I got to see a side to Mark that I hadn't seen. And I've known Mark a long, long time. I mean, again, there's always been a personal and a professional relationship that goes back a long ways, but we saw a different side to Mark, which I think impressed us. So again, I don't think it hurts that we knew him, but it also, in some sense, I don't think it gave him a clear advantage either. And I think that he came in without, expecting any advantage. I think the other thing, in some sense, he had a disadvantage. I mean, when you have as many good interviews as we had, the fact that Mark started off first, really, in some sense, because every person that we talked about afterwards was also very, very good. And sometimes you can be guilty of the last the last impression. So we really made a point to sort of separate ourselves from the last interview, look at them, each one of them, and then when we made our decision, we had a number of days where we talked about this amongst the group. I said Billy Owens was very much, Rob Neighborhouse was very much involved in this. Our analysts were involved. So anyways, but as far as the advantage, I think that again, Mark certainly didn't go into it thinking he had one, and we thought the same thing. In some sense, it could be an advantage and a disadvantage, as I mentioned.
And question for Mark too. I'm obviously having coached alongside Bob for several years now. Are there any certain things that stand out to you as things that you'd kind of like to, as you carve out your own managerial style, things that you'd kind of like to carry over that you saw kind of established over the years with Bob?
Yeah, Martin, I definitely say that Bob laid the foundation of the culture here over the last 10 and a half years. And that culture, in that culture, it's about winning. And so ultimately, we're going to carry that forward. Bob had a level of expectation of how the game was played, and I will continue to have that level of expectation. And I also think that the relationships that Bob built and watching his relationships with the players and again, with the front office, I learned a great deal from being here with Bob from the past 6 years. As Billy mentioned, I do have some differences, and those differences will probably show themselves throughout my tenure. But if I can have half the success that Bob had here as an Oakland A's manager, I'd be excited about that.
Next, we'll go to Steve Berman.
Hey, Mark, congratulations on the big day. Was wondering with coaching staffs, I know a lot of the coaches that are on staff are under contract for next year, but there's sort of a trend among certain teams now to sort of have bigger coaching staffs, more hitting coaches, more pitching coaches, what have you. What are your plans for filling out your staff? Do you have plans to maybe grow the staff a little bit or go in some different directions analytically or anything like that of that nature?
Well, I'm trying to get my feet on the ground and enjoy this day. But yes, we have talked about the coaching staff. We've talked about possibly growing the coaching staff. Right now, I think our focus is on, obviously getting through this time frame of celebrating and yet moving forward. And so, I'm going to take this time right now to, as I said, enjoy the moment, and we will have those conversations as we move forward as to what we're going to do with our staff in terms of growth and movement. So.
And then you mentioned a few times, just sort of alluding to the fact that there will be some differences, obviously, between you and Bob. Maybe is there anything specific that you can kind of note as to what the players might expect when they come back, and that might be a little different than what they're used to?
Well, I don't know how large the difference will be, but I know I'm definitely a little more emotional than Bob. Bob had an unbelievable ability to stay very calm. You never knew his highs and his lows. There was a rare occasion when we get a great post game or a great extra inning game win that Bob may have a small slight reaction. Not that he didn't enjoy those wins. He definitely enjoyed those wins. And he definitely wore the losses. And I'm sure I will wear the losses. But yeah, I think overall, a lot of similarities. Bob is meticulous about his game planning. I've watched and learned from him, and hopefully can continue that forward.
Thank you.
Go to Vince Cotroneo.
Happy holidays, everybody. Mark, congratulations. Just following up on you as becoming a manager, you had this target even back as a player, and through the coaching and even being alongside Bob, what do you think, even as somebody that is considered a very astute baseball person, what have you learned about just the pitch by pitch, the day by day? You mentioned game planning, but other things that maybe opened your eyes that you were not understanding of how much of that meant into either that day's success or failure. And meeting with the media now on a consistent basis as a manager and answering a lot of questions all the time. What do you think that your takeaways were as you were hoping for this day to come, as it turns out with Oakland?
Well, first, thanks, Vince, for the congratulatory message, and I also want to focus here on over the period of time of my playing career. I played for like 17 years. I've coached for the last 7. So that all the data and knowledge comes from that history of being in professional baseball for 25 years. The day in and day out management of the responsibility of a manager, I've watched and learned. I've had some unbelievable mentors. Dave Roberts, who's a personal friend, Craig Counsell, who's also a personal friend. And then to receive phone calls from Jim Leland, Bruce Bochy, Buddy Black, all men that I admire and all men that I've either played under or coached for, worked with, been peers in the game. So I think the knowledge that they've passed on, the knowledge that I'm able to gain going forward, and the staff that's around me, I'm excited about this opportunity. And once we get started here, we'll definitely hit the ground running.
Let's go to Janie McCauley.
Hi, Mark. Congratulations. Nice to see you and everybody. You have been well-traveled in this game, and have you picked up some things from each stop? I mean, all over both leagues and from so many different managers. And also, I guess what is your message? Have you reached out to some players already? And wait, you're not. I don't think you're allowed to do that. Sorry.
That's okay, Janie. Thank you. Great to see you. Obviously, we can't reach out to players. We can't send messages back, unfortunately. But for my travels and my career, as you said, I played for 7 different teams, 7 different organizations, obviously. And really, this is my organization that I call home. And David touched on that. When people talk about my playing career, the reflection is generally Mark Kotsay's A's years. And I couldn't be happier about that. I couldn't be more excited about being chosen as the 31st manager for the Oakland Athletics. And really, my family started here in 2004. My oldest daughter, Grace, was born. 2005, my middle daughter, Sienna. And Billy Trey was born in Oakland A, because I don't believe the trade happened until after November 7th of 2007, when you traded me to the Braves. But this is home, Janie. I couldn't be more excited.
And Mark, what was your message going into the interview? Billy and David both just said you approached it as if you didn't know them or hadn't been such a, solid piece of this organization already.
Well, they're right. I completely prepared in a manner that I prepared for my 5 previous managerial interviews. And obviously, going through those 5 experiences, those humbling experiences of coming out on the wrong side of it, I knew not to take anything for granted. Relationships are valuable, but they're not everything. And nor did I want to go into this process thinking that I was a lead candidate. I went into this process with, as they mentioned, 5 other very strong candidates, 2 of which are going to work on my coaching staff. I couldn't be happier about, with Darren Bush and Marcus Jensen. The other 3 candidates, all who I've gone into previous interviews with to try to obtain a leadership role in other organizations. Matt Quattaro, Will Venable, Joe Spada, all, as Billy mentioned, are future managers in the game. So I knew what I was up against in terms of their desire to want to lead an organization. So I took that mentality, and I took the same mentality day in and day out that I'm going to lead with. It's the grind, the grit, and the determination to put your best forward every day, foot forward every day, and come out on top.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we have time for about 2 more. We'll go back to Matt Kawahara.
Mark, I just wanted to ask, obviously you are sort of stepping into this job in a bit of a strange time where you're not allowed to communicate with the roster you'll have. How do you plan to navigate the interim in terms of preparing for the season, not really knowing when, I guess, you'll be able to ramp things up?
Yeah, Matt, our preparation comes every day with communication through our baseball ops department, the collaboration of getting ourselves prepared. So when that opportunity for us to start, we hit the ground running with our foot forward. And that's our preparation. we'll continue to build. And when the time comes to step onto the field and prepare for a season, my staff and baseball ops will be prepared and ready to hit the ground running.
All right, we'll finish up with Sheena Rubin.
For Billy and David, last time we met, there was some uncertainty about what the team might look like in 2022, and now you have a new manager than the last time we talked. I get you guys can't discuss players individually, but organizationally, has there been any clarity from ownership about what payroll is going to look like, what the roster might look like, anything like that?
I'll let David not answer that.
Shana, we've been focused on the managers selection, and we'll focus on the staff next. I know Mark pretends to be patient, but he's been wearing us out, ready to get his staff in place. And he mentioned his preparation is already starting. He's already got ideas on spring training and everything. So we've got our hands full, keeping him occupied, getting his coaching staff set, and we'll deal with the rest of that when the time comes.